Joined us on Monday. We had Introduction to Nursing Research in Walden Library, and we had a lot of fun zooming through all kinds of stuff. You can still see the recording. If you register, it'll let you write in. And then we talked about accessing the library from any browser. We talked about using course guides for readings and assignments. We talked about accessing your subject area. Your program has a page librarians put just for you with program-specific databases and guides and help and things like that, because you don't want to go through our 150 databases looking for something nursing appropriate. We have them for you all in one place. And then we also looked at these several database options and getting to the full text once you found the wonderful resource. Sometimes figuring out how to get to the PDF itself can be challenging and requires some persistence. So if you're having any trouble with that, go ahead and watch the recording from Monday. We will also be putting that on our recorded webinars page and our YouTube channel and all kinds of things. But I'm not going to review very much of that today. We have some new objectives. We're going to look at keywords, how to generate synonyms, how to find more keywords to describe your topic and expand it with similar or related concept. We will look at the evidence hierarchy pyramid because that is really throughout nursing is to be able to evaluate the evidence, but we're not going to be too much focused on that pyramid. We'll look and identify and search filtered and unfiltered resources, different types of databases that we have subscriptions to here at the library. And then if we have time, we might get into some gray literature, some clinical queries, and a little bit of citation management. But those are all things that are well documented on our website if we don't get to that. All right. Okay, so this is how I kind of divided us up into basic and advanced searching competencies. And this is straight from the new Nursing 6052 textbook. The blue ones are basic searching competencies and the orange ones are more advanced searching competencies. And we will work on many of these tonight, but I just wanted you to be aware of them. If you are in 6052 and you have questions about any of these, the index of the book is great for that. So just to give you an idea of what is going to be expected of you as a student here at Walden. I know we have a couple of undergraduates in here. They're not quite as stringent with y'all, but those at the graduate level will be expected to be familiar with these concepts. So the pyramid. The one on the left, this old thing is pretty ancient, 2006, which is a lot, very old in medical literature and on the internet. And then they have reformatted it. This lovely one on the right is now located in the 6052 classroom and has some little pop-outs for you so that you can see what each one of them is. But don't get attached to any of these pyramids. We will talk about the pyramid as a structure for evaluating a paper, a study, a research article that you have in front of you. But there's all kinds of pyramids. Two more types of pyramids here. They pretty much have the same things down here, more or less. But then when you get to the top, they have something called meta-analyses. And those are not on these older pyramids because there weren't very many of them at the time. There weren't even very many systematic reviews in 2006. But now we've got lots. And meta-analyses are analyses of the systematic reviews. So it gets even more complicated. And don't get too caught up in all the different levels because then I found this one also in the textbook for Nursing 6052 that actually takes into account the medical record of the patient and the decision support that you have there. So as long as you know that some types of evidence are more important than others, I think you'll do okay. Unless you're just using the I just know top of the pyramid of something that you've been doing as a nurse for the last 10, 15, 20, 50 years, okay? So the pyramid consists of filtered resources at the top. Those are your systematic reviews, your meta-analysis, and critically appraised things. What that means is that somebody, not somebody, but a panel of experts has looked at all of the studies that are available on your topic or on a particular aspect of the topic, and they are making recommendations. They are synthesizing all the information in all those different studies and producing a recommendation um, in their field of study. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. We've got systematic reviews. One of the best places to get those is Cochrane, and we'll look at that a little bit later. Joanna Briggs. We've got guidelines for those critically appraised topics, and then critically appraised individual articles. I just wanted to show you an example of that, and this is from the ACP Journal Club. And so it is taking a particular clinical question here about the long chain fatty acids and whether or not that's going to help you avoid a second heart attack or a first one for that matter. And then these are the clinical impact ratings by specialty. So the general medicine people think that this is great evidence. The cardiology people think this is great evidence. Neurology, maybe not so much. And then public health is the fourth one. So they've synthesized it in regard to these various areas. And it just gets crazier and crazier when you look at all these types of evidence. And so it's just helpful to have an understanding of whether, if it's an expert opinion, if it's a qualitative descriptive study, things like that, where it might fall in this. And I know that the assignments in various classes treat this a little bit differently. So the types of evidence, it's helpful to have a general idea, but don't get too caught up in the numbers, these numbers of evidence here or the levels here. Okay, so the week 2 assignments for Nursing 6052, which is underway right now, and which is easily our biggest class, but we don't have a ton of students from that class tonight. But the week 2 assignments are similar to some of the assignments in other classes. And so they want you to identify a clinical issue of interest, and they want you to pick 4 different databases and find 4 peer-reviewed articles. And that's not all that unusual. So let's show you how to do that for all of that. For nursing databases specifically, there's a couple of different ways to get there. If you go to the select a subject, you can go to the nursing research page and see all of our stuff from there. Or if you go to databases A to Z, you can go and just narrow that down to the nursing databases. And I will go ahead and show you that. So this is the library homepage, library.waldenu.edu will get you there from any browser. And the select a subject is here, and then nursing. And this might be a good place for you to bookmark, not only so you can see mine and Lisa's lovely glamour shots here on the left, but so that you can know that there is help here for you as you get farther into your studies. Under the nursing databases tab, we have several individual databases, and these are kind of the most popular. And then I wanted to point out this view all nursing databases here, because we have several others in here. We have the most popular up top, but then we get down and have some other little oddball ones like the Joanna Briggs, like Science Direct, things like that that might be useful to you, even if they're not in the top 5 or 6 of those. Okay. And other things on this page, if you are asked to go to a particular journal, you can go this way. You can go in and browse nursing journals, things like that. If you are asked to do a literature review, whether it be a small one or you're about to start on your dissertation, that this can be helpful there too. Tests and measures, theories, and the evidence-based practice research guide. And that's where you will find lots and lots of information here on the pyramid, on which databases to use for which levels, things like that. And this is all from the nursing research page, which is right here. Okay, so in the nursing research page, if you are just starting your research and you just need an article, any article to do a discussion post or, a quick survey or some kind of investigative research, and it doesn't say exactly what you have to do, you can come in here and start your research here. And one of the things that's great about these nursing classes is most of them will ask you to pick the topic. And it's really helpful if you pick a topic you are interested in or that affects you in some way, because that's quite motivational. So before I start the topic, are there any things I've skipped over too fast or I should stop for, Lisa?
We don't have any questions so far, Julie, and I think your
Awesome.
pacing seems good.
Okay, so I am going to start my nursing research in this gold box. And I have a particular clinical issue of interest right now because my husband had a heart attack 2 weeks ago, and it was the Widowmaker. So I want to see what is going on with the cardiac diet. On his discharge instructions, each time they referred to the cardiac diet, it was like it was something that was a given. And I have followed this long enough that I know that nothing in diets and nutrition is a given these days. So I said, let's go look at cardiac diet. And so I started with that, in my gold box. And if you've not seen this before, you're going to have to log in once per session. And it looks just like the portal, but it's not the portal. So cardiac diet, only 2,000 articles. So Mediterranean diet adherence, long-term high-fat diet, that's kind of in the neighborhood, but I was surprised there's only 2,000. And then I'm going, yeah, these are back to 1895. Maybe I could go a little better. So I separate this out into two separate concepts. One of the things that's wonderful about this particular search interface is the three search boxes. And if you keep your concepts separate, it will understand it better, but it'll also offer you some alternative words. So cardiac, maybe that's not what it's calling it. Let me type an or there, cardiac or heart or cardiovascular. I think that will work for me because I will take any of those three words, and that's why there's an or between them, because I will take this word or this word or this word. And when I click search here, I go from 2,000 results to 4,480,000. I haven't put in the diet yet, but let's put in diet or nutrition. Because really, I just want to know what is the best things I should be cooking, buying, feeding, and consuming with the husband. So now we've got 181,000, which is a little more than we started with there. Okay. And this might be a good time to see. Let's take that. We've got them back to 1874. I'm not really interested in historical diet information. So I'm going to put in 2014 there, and then I just hit enter, or you can click off of it. And then I'm going to click this peer-reviewed scholarly journals only. I don't really want anybody's speculation on it. I want a peer-reviewed scholarly journal about this issue. So now I'm down to 50,000, and that's within the last 5 years. That's a nice, healthy hit list. And I'm going, well, let's see, I'm not going to be reading 50,000 articles. Wonder if I can find a systematic review or meta-analysis, because I want somebody to filter the information, to synthesize it for me. And that worked really well. I'm back to 2,000, but they are all going to be a higher level of evidence here. And this is something specific called a portfolio diet. I was reading a little bit about it earlier. It's nice that it's May, June 2018. That's good. It's from Progress in Cardiovascular Diseases is the name of the journal. This one is Nutrition, Metabolism, and Cardiovascular Diseases, April 2018. So I really want the most up-to-date information here, because some of my husband's discharge papers actually said only 2 egg yolks a week. And I said, I think that was disproved quite a while ago. It said no shrimp, and that is also debatable. So I wanted to look these things up in a more reliable way that's really recent, that it's especially in nutrition these days, but all types of information is just exploding. There is just way too much that you could possibly process it all. So it helps to make sure that you've got the most recent and the most comprehensive. Now, if I wanted to go farther with this, and I didn't test this out earlier, but I just want to try it now, is to put egg yolks. If I'm really concerned about that egg yolks thing and I just want to see about the egg yolks, Oh, nothing. Well, that would be because by default, this database searches the title, the abstract, the subject headings, and the keywords. And it looks like that there probably wasn't anything done specific and only on eggs. Oh, yes, there is. There we go. So this is the impact of a whole egg. So that's good. I was too specific when I put in egg yolks, and I needed to just say eggs, because this is 10, looks like pretty good articles here in the last 5 years, reevaluating nutrition as a risk factor, because that's really just one of our controllable aspects of disease control, right? My husband's freaking out because everything he puts in his mouth, he's saying, am I allowed to eat this or not? So this is how I found a systematic review or meta-analysis, by using the keywords. Some of the other databases and some of the individual databases have limiters like that, but it does work pretty well to use it as a keyword. Do we have questions about this process that I just flew through right here?
Actually, Julie, there is a question about kind of comparing this to Thoreau. So
Mm-hmm.
the question is, what databases is Thoreau searching across if these databases, or this search is just searching across nursing databases?
I know, right? It gets kind of confusing. Thoreau, if you're not familiar with it, Thoreau is the search from our homepage here. And it is going to have more multidisciplinary stuff in it. It's going to have business source, education source, other types of databases that aren't in health sciences. Um, the nursing one does include PsycInfo and SocialIndex, because psychiatric journals will have some things to say about health issues, right? And it's one of those things that if you were doing a multidisciplinary topic, like if I was doing something on the cost impact of the cardiac diet on hospitalization charges or something like that, I might visit the business area to focus that. But starting off at Thoreau just might give me too much out of my topic area. Whereas going to the nursing homepage and searching this gold box will be a little bit more focused to Medline, CINAHL, PsycInfo, SocialIndex, Science Direct, and a couple of other little ones. And definitely, if you are in an undergraduate course, this search is just fine. They don't really get into which database did you use. When you get into master's and doctoral level classes, frequently you have to specify which database you use. And Thoreau, or the gold box search at the top of the nursing page, isn't really sufficient. What they're looking for there is that you've been comprehensive, maybe that you've searched more than one database. So for instance, with the 6052 assignment, I would start, well, actually with any nursing assignment, CINAHL would be a great place to start, because it's a cumulative index to nursing and allied health literature, and it's all about the nursing. Medline is always a good complement to CINAHL, partly because it uses this same interface here. So that's why you can go and choose databases and choose Medline and CINAHL together, or you can choose the CINAHL and Medline combined search here. But when you get into each individual database, so this is Medline, it has different limiters down here than CINAHL does, than PsycInfo does. Each one can be a little bit different, so that you can't really get into super specific searches when you're doing more than one database at a time. So I suggest all nursing students get real cozy with CINAHL and figure that out and learn how to use it, and then maybe pick a couple of others. The ProQuest Nursing and Allied Health Source has a similar interface, but it's not quite the same. Let me show you right quick how I would translate that over, because I did cardiac or cardio. See, and it has different hits here, vascular or heart. And so you're seeing that these are just things that other people have tried. So not necessarily spelled right. That's a good thing to know. And then diet or nutrition in the second box. Now this one only has 2 boxes, but you can add a row and add another row if you like. What I usually like to do is go ahead and click the search button before you get in too far, and then just make sure we've got the right words. We did this in the other database, so it's not as necessary. This ProQuest interface is a little bit weird in that the modify search here works better than the back button. And little quirks about each database can be frustrating, but if you learn them in the initial part of the quarter or the part of, if you learn them earlier in your Walden career, it's an investment in time to learn these databases now so that you can use them effectively later. One of the things about ProQuest databases, and it goes for nursing and allied health as well as the others, is that it by default, it doesn't just search the title, abstract keywords, and subject headings like it did in that last database. It's searching everywhere. So if you bring that down to not search everywhere, but to search in the subjects and indexing, then that may be a more focused search and take us from 200,000 hits that can be kind of off in the distance to closer to 10,000 hits. Okay, and then once again, over here on the left, you can limit to the peer reviewed here. And then this date range thing is a little weird. You can slide over the slider or you can enter a date range, but you have to enter, you know, the full date range there to get that to work. And that's just everything that gets limited like that. You kind of have to do a little Where's Waldo to find it on the page sometime. And then I can go back to modify search. I can put in that fourth row and then I can say systematic review or meta, I can't type, analysis, and change that to all subjects and indexing because we don't want to pick up the ones that are just having a systematic review in the reference. I wanted something that actually is going to tell me what the results are. Okay, so that's kind of how you translate that same search over into ProQuest. A third database that might be interesting to get to know is MBASE. This is our newest database here at Walden Library. It's a more internationally focused database and it works kind of differently. We could copy and paste those phrases right over to MBASE, but it likes to use its own vocabulary. One of the first things I want to show you here is this quick search, and it only does the first cardiovascular. It only does the first box, but you need to change the other boxes to quick search unless you're looking for a journal name, which I am not. And then I want to say diet. It says diet, food, and nutrition, use nutrition. And I find these to be pretty good when I do use them here in MBASE. And see, this has a lot of scientific things going on that is experimental that I have absolutely no idea what this anhydroglucose. And then another thing to know about this database is by default, it's showing you the newest first. So you're going to see a lot of 2019. Now, this is not a very focused search because we do have almost 300,000, but I love over here the limits that it has because you can do the publication types, the study types from here, and you don't just have to use a keyword type limiter there. But if you're looking for a particular comparative study, if you're looking for a systematic review, meta-analysis, you can put that there. These limits in MBASE here on the side, none of them will actually go like it did in our last two databases. You have to click this apply button up here. And how many times have I forgotten to do that? A good thing that this one does is it does also tell us, keep a record of our search, and knowing what terms you searched sometimes is going to be part of your assignment, is to be able to tell them that. So MBASE is a little weird. It tells you that it's getting it from its own MBASE directory, but it's also, this article should also be in MEDLINE. but frequently the MBASE will get it first because MEDLINE takes longer to process. And sometimes when you view full text, it won't get you there because it's in process and hasn't actually been published yet. MBASE is a weird database, but it does find things that I don't find elsewhere. So it can be really useful, especially if you're having trouble or if it's a topic that might be better covered by countries that have socialized medicine, because they have a little bit more leeway in record keeping and some of the other procedures that are governed by insurance companies here in the United States. If you find a European journal or Scandinavian journal, they may have information that we're not seeing here in the United States. And questions about ProQuest or MBASE here? While I fly through and just give you a general idea how to search, those are the three big interfaces that you would have to know here in the library.
We haven't had any new questions come in.
Awesome. I must be doing something right. Let's go back here. I did a little bit of that keyword searching strategies. I divided up the topic into separate concepts. I explored what the pop-ups were suggesting. I don't always take the pop-up suggestions, and you can always edit them down if there's a word in there that just isn't fitting, things like that. You can consult thesauri. I did not show that. When you are in CINAHL and MEDLINE, they have separate thesauri, meaning they have separate words they're working with here. And if you click on CINAHL subject headings up there and you put in cardiovascular, I haven't tried this either, you can explore to see what types of headings that they have in there. So if you wanted to see all about their preferred words for all of these types of diseases, the cardiovascular abnormalities and things like that. There's a similar function in MEDLINE that is called MESH for medical subject headings that is up here. So if you are stuck for words, that may be a good option for you. And that's one of those competencies, so I wanted to show you it. I also wanted to show you Boolean operators. Boolean operators are one of those phrases in librarianship that people kind of roll their eyes at because it's not very descriptive. But what it means is and, or, and not. And one of the assignments, I pulled this quote from the assignments: describe your search results in terms of the number of articles returned on original research, or what you initially put in, like the 2,000 I got when I put in cardiac diet. And then how this changed as you added search terms using your Boolean operators. So, for example, this is my favorite way to explain Boolean, okay? This is my matrix of how I select my chocolate choices, because I love chocolate and I love chocolate of all kinds. And if I just want chocolate, that's in here, that's going to be, you know, you're standing in the candy aisle or at the chocolatier, and Nestle chocolate, Hershey's chocolate, Godiva, Cadbury, just chocolate by itself. Nuts by itself over here, and the intersection of chocolate and nuts here is where you will find things like the Hershey's bar with almonds, the Mr. Good bar, okay? If you are a chocolate fan and you like caramel or nougat, and I'm not exactly sure what the difference to those are, except I think caramel is a little more runny and nougat is a little more stiff. And so that would be chocolate and caramel, or nougat would be those Three Musketeers, or those little chocolates with the pocket of caramel that oozes all over your shirt. Those would be in here. And then if you're just having nuts and caramel or nougat, that would be something like your payday or your nut roll. But this is the sweet spot for me, is right in the middle, that has chocolate and nuts and caramel or nougat in there all the way in. And you can see that that's a much smaller area that's going to have all three. Now that's kind of the basic of Boolean, is that this is your and here is where they overlap, okay? Caramel or nougat. I will take either one of those in my chocolate bar. So that's the or to say I will have caramel or nougat. And really, in searching and in chocolate, if both are in there, that's absolutely fine too. Okay. Where it starts to get more complicated is when you need to get more specific. So I don't just like chocolate. We have, and the word chocolate, by the way, will pick up milk chocolate, it'll pick up dark chocolate, it'll pick up white chocolate, because it will pick up any articles for which the word chocolate is in there. But let's say I do not think that milk chocolate is worth the calories anymore. As my metabolism slows down, I prefer a dark chocolate or a white chocolate. I think it has more flavor. So that's when I would add the word not to my search. I would say not milk, and that would eliminate the milk chocolate bars from my stash. If I wasn't getting enough hits with my chocolate and nuts and caramel or nougat, I could get more specific about the nuts because they might not use the word nuts. You might need to specify in your search almonds or pecans or walnuts or peanuts or pistachios or whichever ones you would like to include. And so if I put in there nuts or pecans or pistachio, it would pick up all the ones that have those specific nuts in them and not just the word nuts or the generality of nuts. Okay, and then if you happen to know a Mars bar, the Mars bar does have both caramel and nougat, now that I mention it. And those that have all three here are like your Snickers, your turtles, those caramel blobs. I love those. Pecan Delights are very much like turtles, and Baby Ruth there. So any questions about this whole Boolean and or not? Okay.
No, no questions about that or chocolate. Thanks, Julie.
All right. Well, let me turn off my little bot because we can go back to our previous search here and let's see this one. So let's say I'd had all I want to know about eggs and I don't want to see any more articles on eggs. Here's where I would do the not. If you put the not here, it's saying, I want this and this and this, but not eggs. Let me kick out those egg articles. And that doesn't come up a lot, but when it does, when you have a hit list and like every other article is something that's totally in left field, whether it be a homonym that sounds exactly like yours, or it has, you know, you're seeing all these articles that are about medical students and you only want articles about nursing students, you can actually say not medical students. And that will take it, and I would say not medical students or medical education, because that would kick out both of those. Oh, and there's some typos in that one. So like I said, don't rely on the little pop-ups here, but that is Boolean in a nutshell, your and, your or, and your not. Okay, and the handout has all of this in there. I did your demo. The matrix. This matrix is particular to Nursing 6052, which I know all of you are not in, but it's not as intimidating as it seems at first glance, because you basically have to say why you chose an article, the aims of the research. Methodology can be kind of tricky. I'm going to get into methodology here in a minute. And then reliability and validity. And these are things to consider about all articles, more or less. In week 4 of the Nursing 6052, when you have to apply your PICO question and find systematic reviews, it helps to know that when you're finding things relating to a PICO question, very rarely will all the elements of your PICO question be in there, especially if you get into details. So let's say, so my husband's PICO question would be, in a 50-something man, how about an overweight 50-something-year-old man, does a cardiac diet decrease the chances of having a second heart attack? that kind of thing. You know, your elements, your PICO, your P is your population, your I is your intervention, right? So the intervention would be the cardiac diet, and I would come up with some other ways of describing that, whether it be the Mediterranean diet or the that weird one I just found today. So the PICO question, you're not going to find all the elements, but if you have a population, you have an intervention or an outcome. So the outcome I may be looking for is not having a second heart attack, and I may be trying to find the intervention that is going to help him not have a second heart attack. Okay, so the methodology on how we get there can be really confusing. So I put all of these in the handout so that you can download them, because when people are looking for a qualitative article, so let's say I'm going to take out systematic review, I'm going to take out medical students, and if I just put in qualitative, so if I just need to find a qualitative article about that, meaning something that is not measurable, it's more about their feelings about how things, their perceptions, stuff like that. So I'm only finding 709 here that have the word qualitative there in the subject's title and abstract. But if we go to, see where I put it. Oh, there it is. This is our quick answers on qualitative articles. And so I put a link to this in the handouts because all of these are like secret words that mean qualitative. I'm not exactly sure what ethnographic means, but it is a type of qualitative research. Same with phenomenological, same with grounded theory. So if I took a bunch of these words and I added them to my search, I could say qualitative or ethnographic or phenomenological. Those are all types of qualitative studies. And so that should bring my hits up a little bit. Fingers crossed. And it's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. It brought us up a little bit, but you can actually put all of those in there. You can put all of the qualitative words one after the other and say, or interview, or discourse analysis, or case study. Now know that there aren't going to be as many qualitative articles as quantitative, partly because of the electronic medical record has made quantitative research so much easier because we have all this data after the fact. So you can pull information out of the EHR in aggregate or individually, and then there's just a lot more data to work with these days. And that was part of the whole Affordable Care Act and making the EHR worth it for everyone all around. Okay, if you have not explored the qualitative, quantitative types of research, it's helpful to be familiar with that for general research purposes. And then we do get into mixed methods articles that uses more than one kind, but hopefully undergraduate and master's students don't have to do too much with the qualitative and quantitative, but you should know what they are and generally how that type of research is done. Questions?
No questions.
Oh, wow. You guys are a quiet bunch. Oh, and this on the right is a little bit freaky. This is a prisma diagram, and this is really for those in 6052 and graduates or doctoral students, because this is how you can, another way you can express your searches. You could say this person found 1,182 articles in Medline, 83 in Central. They identified records from other sources at 9. This is why they kicked them out, why they did not take those into why they didn't take those into account when they were writing this systematic review. So there's lots of little concepts like the prisma diagram that helps if you have a general idea of how it works, but don't get too bogged down in the details here, unless you are a DNP student doing a systematic review, in which case we should talk. Okay, So this is my favorite page on the whole library website is Get Help, and you will find it on most of the pages of the library website here in the upper right. So when you can't figure it out, go to Get Help. And this is where we have the upcoming webinars that you may have found this one. We have recorded webinars. If you'd like to see what this class was like last quarter when it was all about Nursing 6052, then you feel free, but the Nursing 6052 class has changed completely since last quarter. This also has some technical help if you're having trouble with videos, PDFs, things like that. If a database isn't working, you might check to see if it's down for some reason because we will post it on this page. If you're just totally lost at this point, then I would really recommend doing some of the library skills guides and tutorials so that you understand some of the vocabulary that we're using and can really build upon it as you continue your career. And then these quick answers. Oh my goodness, this is one of my favorites ever. So if you're like, she said something about qualitative, but I don't remember what it was, you can go to just put in a keyword qualitative to get to this. You can put in all types of questions, and it doesn't have to be library specific because we have academic skills center in here. We have things from the writing center, other places, so it may help you there. And then ask a librarian. If you've not used our Ask a Librarian service, it is a little bit busy this time of year in the first couple weeks of the quarter, but if you send us an email, we do have shifts going all through the day and the evening, and that's probably the best way to do it is by email. If you know, or if you happen to notice that we're on chat, which will start here in about an hour, you can ask a quick question over chat. It's not really appropriate to do a literature review or something more involved like that over chat, but we can help you as best we can. And then the phone option is a message service. You will leave a voicemail and you will get a reply by email. So I'm thinking that it might be a little more efficient if you start the conversation by email so you can copy and paste. I'm on this page, or this is the article I'm trying to find, things like that, and go ahead and paste it into email. Then we don't have to try to listen to the voicemail and transcribe what you're saying. And then doctoral students can make an appointment down here under the doctoral research appointment. But this is all under the Get Help here, and this would be a great place to bookmark to just anytime you're floundering, go ahead and put a keyword in there and see what it comes up. And that is looking like that. And I put a link in the handout straight to that help page. Okay, these are some other links for you. I put the handout in PDF format so that it would be easy for you to click on the links and to get to these. The nursing research home we talked about, the evidence-based practice guide, the nursing databases, that whole 15 of those nursing databases. We do have a little help on forming your PICO question, and then my favorite page, the library Get Help page. What questions do you have for me now? Surely we have some questions.
I hate to disappoint you, Julie, but we do not have any questions.
Not okay. So I tried to finish up in 45 minutes, and I did that all right. But I wanted to allow some time for questions because traditionally the students will bring us just some of the most out of left field questions, and it's almost like a game show trying to answer them. So does anybody have any questions for us? Are you stuck on an assignment? Are you stuck in a particular database? Do you want to talk about chocolate preferences some more? Which, you know, I do realize is not very helpful to my husband to be talking about chocolate and nuts and caramel and things like that.
We do have a quick question about if the recording for the webinar.
Yes, the recording, provided that I did it right, will go out as soon as it's finished processing, which is about 2 hours after we're done. If it's a question about Monday's webinar, I put the link in the handout so that you can download it from here. And yes, I agree that Snickers is awesome. So if you download you can get to the Monday session. It's not on our YouTube channel yet, but I'm hoping that it will be within about a week or so, as soon as I get it a little bit cleaned up. Okay, and all of our webinars are recorded. They all have transcripts. It does take a while to get the captions changed into transcripts. So let us know if you need that more quickly, and we will get that for you. And otherwise, let us know how else we can help you. Hit that Ask a Librarian and let us know where you're stuck, and we can provide you with some resources. All right, any other questions here? Let me pull this out. Okay, not too many foods. Yeah, that's true, Lisa. I totally agree with the not too many foods are totally bad, except, all those snack foods, the pub mix, the munchie mix, the tortilla chips, the Fritos, all that salt and fat. Those are the things that we're really working on now. But yes, I am doing some actual research here too. And thank you everyone for coming, and we will let you go and give you back a few minutes of your time. But you do have our contact information if there's something else we can help you with. Bye everyone.